From Washington, this is VOA News. I'm David Forrest reporting. Greece has a new proposal. Greece has delivered its latest proposal for economic reforms to European finance ministers, hoping the plan will lead to a financial bailout that will avoid its departure from the eurozone. Little information is available about what the new package from Athens contains, but reports say it includes a boost in some sales taxes and cuts in spending. The Greek Parliament will meet Friday to decide whether to endorse the reforms. The European Union plans to hold an emergency summit on the Greek situation Sunday. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says if certain decisions are not made in the Iran nuclear talks, the negotiators are ready to end the discussions. He told reporters in Vienna that real progress is being made toward a comprehensive agreement, but that the quality of the agreement is at issue.
Given that the work here is incredibly technical and that the stakes are very, very high, we will not rush and we will not be rushed. And we won't let ourselves be rushed through any aspect of this.
Iran's foreign minister says he's prepared to stay at the negotiating table as long as necessary to come to an agreement. Leaders of the 5 BRICS nations have announced the launch of a development bank and a currency reserve pool. It's intended to be an alternative to world financial institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. The BRICS nations were meeting in Russia. The U.S. National Security Advisor has harshly criticized South Sudan on the anniversary of its independence, saying President Salva Kiir and the former vice president, rebel leader Riek Machar, are directly responsible for the country's return to war. Susan Rice said the situation in South Sudan breaks her heart. This is VOA News. The United Nations has announced that a fighting pause in Yemen will begin at the end of Friday. The pause in the violence by all of the major parties in the conflict will allow aid to reach millions of Yemenis.
There are over 21 million people in need of humanitarian aid in Yemen, 80% of the population, and millions of people one step away from famine.
The UN spokesman says the unconditional humanitarian pause will continue until the end of Ramadan. A key U.S. general has ranked Russia and China as the number 1 and number 2 threats to the United States' national security. Marine General Joseph Dunford spoke Thursday during his confirmation hearings before the Senate Armed Services Committee. He's in line to be the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He described Russia's behavior as nothing short of alarming, and he asked and was asked if the United States should provide lethal weapons to Ukraine.
From a military perspective, I think it's reasonable that we provide that support to the Ukrainians, and frankly, without that kind of support, then they're not going to be able to protect themselves against Russian aggression.
Asked about China, General Dunford said he would rank that country as the second potential threat to the U.S. national security. Chinese stocks fluctuated wildly Thursday but ended with big gains after the government announced a series of new measures to calm a 3-week market slide. Thailand's government Thursday confirmed the deportation of more than 100 ethnic Uyghur people from western Xinjiang province back to China, a move condemned by rights groups and the United Nations. Ron Corbin reports.
The overnight deportation of more than 100 ethnic Uyghur to China occurred at a military Air Force base after the groups were earlier transferred from several detention centers. The group comprised mostly men but included women and children. Reports Thursday said Thai authorities used force to subdue the men who resisted as they were put on board the aircraft to China. Thai Deputy Government spokesman Werachon Sukhondapatipak said the decision to deport the group followed lengthy negotiations and adhered to international processes. Ron Corbin, Bangkok, Thailand.
The head of the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, James Comey, said Thursday agents broke up a number of terrorist plots in the weeks leading up to the Independence Day holiday in the U.S. He said more than 10 people were arrested, but he gave no information on what they were plotting or where they planned to strike. South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley has signed a bipartisan bill removing the Confederate battle flag from the grounds of the state capitol. Lawmakers in South Carolina's House of Representatives followed the state Senate when they passed the bill early Thursday after more than 13 hours of emotional debate. From the VOA News Center in Washington, I'm Dave DeForest.
That's the latest world news from VOA.